build it here. You're not going to see me in this video because this is just a demonstration or a how-to video. I'm going to do speed versus power testing. This is a PowerPoint slide that I put together on how to do this. So there's two different methods we're going to do. We're going to do light burn and a do-it-yourself version. So it doesn't matter if you have light burn or not. You can use that the second method. So why do you need a speed and power test? As later in order, you need to know what speed and power setting you need in order to properly cut or engrave the material you are working with. Making random attempts at setting up your engraving or cutting only ends up in frustration, wasting time and wasting material. In the end, it's a waste of precious resource, your money. Engrave test will be done using basswood. Cut test will also be done using basswood. So now we're going to actually go into light burn. These are the instructions. I will post a link to my Google Drive where I will place this file at, this PowerPoint, so you can refer back to it later if you need to. Okay, let's jump into light burn. And in light burn, the method you use in light burn is really quite simple. In light burn, you go up to laser tools and you'll choose material test. And let me get that showing up on my video capture here. Give me a moment here. Material test generator going. Okay, so now we've got our material test generator showing up on the screen. You can see here the default settings. There's a couple of things. You can enable text and you can enable a border. So what you want to do is enable text will actually put the text of, let me show you preview maybe. Open up another light burn, another channel here. Give me a moment while I set up another channel. Select the capture window. Use this one right here. Okay, so this is a preview of what you'll get with the current settings that you have. So the enable text allows it to put the text on here, the numbers and speed, the numbers and power, and up here passes 1. So you can change the number of passes if you want to do multiple passes. So if we're going to the diode laser that's a really low wattage, you'd want to set multiple passes up. But we're not going to be doing that. I'm going to assume everybody has a higher quality laser since you're trying to start a business. So we will not worry about the number of passes on this one. Everything's going to be considered to be one pass. Okay. Now I don't like to use the 10 by 10 because it makes a fairly large cutout basically of your speed and power test. I like to use a smaller version. So I like to use 5 for both my speed and my power. And for my speed, since we're gonna do a engrave test right now, so I'm gonna change my speed to 100 millimeters to 300 millimeters, and my power, I'm gonna change it to 20 to 60. So these are going to make squares that are 5 by 5 millimeters in size. What you want to do now also is go into edit material settings. Make sure you have it on fill So right here it's on line. So this would do a cut test, not a engrave test. So you want to change it from line to fill, so that way it will fill in, and it gives you a pattern of how it's gonna do it. So we got all, sorry, you don't get to see that, sorry. Let me go back and turn that on for you guys to see that one. Excuse me. Okay, so that should give you, find the right one. Okay. So right here we have our what I was just talking about. So in this, it was set to line like that to do a cut test. That's what you want to do for cut test. But we're doing a engrave, so we want to do fill. And this is the pattern it's going to do. It's going to go one way, then the other way, then the other way, then the other way, and back and forth, and back and forth, back and forth, all the way through. A zigzag, basically. Okay, so we've got our settings set up here, 100 to 300, 20 to 60%. We can preview that, but if I do a preview, it's not going to show up on your screen again. I have to go back and reset it so that it will show up again. And so that's the preview of our 5 by 5, and that gives us our, starting at 100, going up to 300, going from 20 up to 60. We're ready to go. I didn't turn my laser on. And I'll turn on the cooler. So let me switch over to the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So, move all the other videos here. So now you can see my laser head. I'm going to move it. Well, I'm going to be moving everything anyway. So I'm going to move my laser head down and position my origin setting. So my origin starts within this corner of my material. And then I'll go ahead and put the start on engraving that. Now you can see that thing cutting away, or not really. It's doing the text first. It's going to do all the text always first. I can position just a little bit here. Sometimes it won't show anything because it's just not enough power. So that's what you're trying to find out, what power level or what and what speed to actually work at to get you a good engrave. So we're kind of working on it here. We're slowly getting there. It'll take a little while to do all the little squares. You got 5 by 5 is 25 squares it's going to do. while that's happening, I am going to go search for X-Tools. For manual setup, I'm going to actually use X-Tool Studio in order to show how to do this, because I want you to see that I can do it either way. It doesn't matter which one. No, actually I'm not going to use X-Tool Studio because I don't have my other laser set up. I don't have my X-Tool D1 set up to run right now. Because I've been only using my Monport Reno 65 Pro to do everything. But I'm going to load the software because I'm going to eventually be running my other laser at the same time. Okay, so it's finished the engrave. I'm not sure if it cut completely because I didn't set the cut settings. I need to move the camera because it's sitting on top of my the lid of my laser. So yeah, it didn't cut all the way through. So that's one of the things I didn't do. I didn't set my cut settings. And so it's a little off on that. So what I will do is I will actually set up a let's see if I can do this an easy way or not. I'm not sure. Okay, so it's not letting me do that. Shoot. So probably what I have to do is set up a grid to do it myself. Anyway, we'll skip that part of the cutting out part. But in the cutting of it, let me open up the laser tools and go back in my material desk again. This isn't going to show right now. I have so many windows open now. It's show that. Okay, so here is my maybe. Yeah. We have our material settings showing up on there now. Drag it out in the middle of the screen here. So what I didn't do was I didn't go through and set up my border cutting. So right here you change your border cutting. 100 millimeters is way too fast for this. I'm usually running around with wood material around 5 and 50 to cut. And that's what we should be using. But it doesn't matter. This is just a test and showing you how to run the speed and power test. So let's pull out our piece of wood and we'll look at it. So now you're going to actually see me, I guess. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just have the camera, let the camera show it. So this is our speed and power test. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure if I even have you on the screen. Hide these. Okay. So here's my speed and power test, I think. Let me do one other thing here. I have multiple cameras, so I actually have 3 cameras in here to do things with. So I'll turn on my other camera, which you will then see me when as I'm doing this, and we'll get that set up here. Let me hide this camera, and we'll enlarge that one. Come on. Why are they doing that? Make that bigger. Okay, so my tripod came off on my camera. Sorry guys. Technical difficulties here. I actually had this camera set up on a different setup. So, alright, so now we got ourselves in camera here. This is our speed and power test we just did. Actually like that. So you can kind of see it started to cut through on one of the layers here, this bottom one. So we actually had a little too much power down here at 60 and 100, 60% power. So we can look at our different power levels and decide what level do we want to engrave at. So you can see it's a little bit of burning because I don't have my high powered air. You want high power air whenever you're doing, well, in engraving you don't really want any air. So with any laser. With cutting you want to have air turned on. Now what you can do is, if you really want to look at this well, is you can clean it. Take this microfiber cloth here, we'll kind of rub over it, and that'll get some of the stuff out of the actual squares, so you can see the squares a little better. You can see there's overburn on the part because the air is on. I didn't turn it off. I could have turned it off, and we can sand that down and get rid of some of those scorch marks if we want to. But it's not important because we're not trying to. This isn't a part we're going to sell. This is just so that we can get a speed test going. And on the speed test, so you look at the different levels and the different powers, and we can look at here. This is probably a good level right here, which is 30 at 100, or we could probably go at 50 and 150 as our power settings to get a good engrave out of it. So that's basically all you do. That's doing a speed and power test using Lightburn, and it's built in. You just got to go in and set up the settings you want to use. Now the next method is a lot more difficult to do because you're totally in control. You have to set all 25 squares for the different power and settings. So I'm going to go into that method on how to do that right now. So let's switch off this camera. We'll turn Lightburn back on. I think it's that one. I think that's all I need right now until we get to. I think that's all I need actually for my camera setup, so you guys can see what's happening here. Alright, so here we are in Lightburn. So what we're going to do now in Lightburn, you can do this in any software, by the way. So I was going to do Xtool, but like I said, I don't have my laser connected or set up. I don't have the venting for it set up. So there's a few issues. You know, I moved all my stuff downstairs into my garage so that I didn't have to have it in my office upstairs. So here we are in Lightburn. What we're going to do is we'll create a box. We're going to make that box 5 by 5. Yep. 5mm by 5mm. And then we're going to create, basically, we're going to change that into, I'm going to zoom in so we can see it a little better. We're going to change that into an array. So right here on X, on, sorry, on Lightburn, you have this a function to create an array. And I want 5 columns, and I want 5 rows. And that will give me my 5 by 5 array. Now the thing is, when you do Lightburn, I don't know if how in Xtool, because I haven't really played with it that much to do this. Oops. So it puts it all together as one item or a grouped item. So in Lightburn, you go up here and you can ungroup them so they're all separate. Okay, so now we've got our grid set up. Let's get our text set up. So go into our text mode. We'll come in and we'll get our, I like using Arial, so that's just me, my personal preference. I'll use Arial Black. We'll come up here and we'll set up, wow, it's huge. We don't need it that big. But anyway, we'll type in speed. Oh, I want in millimeters. Fuck. In millimeters per second. Okay, so you can kind of, I'll zoom out so you can kind of see it. And we'll go back into our mode where we can shrink this down. So in order to keep in the format that we had for the other speed test, we will rotate this 270 degrees. And we'll shrink it down some more because it's actually bigger than I want. Okay, so now we've got that. Now the center row of this is what we're going to use for alignment. So we'll select that one and we'll select our text. Let's select the whole thing. And then we'll select our text. And we're going to center it so that it's on our vertical axis or horizontal line center. So we'll, oops, that was weird. I know what it did. Sorry. Let's just do the center line then. Sorry. It moved all the rows into the same column. So we'll do our horizontal center. That, oh, and I did it backwards. So the way you select is and you want to select multiple items, is hit the shift key in Lightburn. Then you can come over and select the other item, and then we'll select our horizontal centering, and that moves the text down. I don't want to move the array around. I want the array to stay perfectly spaced. So now we got our speed set up. I'm going to copy that so I don't have to resize everything. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 to get it back into the upright position. And I'm going to bring it all out in the center here. So I'm going to change this to be my power. I always forget you. Oh, sorry. I always forget you can't highlight the whole thing. You have to delete it. So we're going to do this as power. and it's percent. Now, what you want to do, sorry, give me a moment here. Okay, so my light burn just crashed. Okay. Give it a moment for the crash to close the program, and we'll restart light burn again. And I got to reset everything up again. Set my grid again. Draw my little square. 5, 5. We'll zoom in, move it down. Holding the space bar and dragging your mouse is what gives you a little hand to move around the sheet to get your whatever you're working on centered. We'll have to set up our array, and we're at a 5 by 5, and then we'll ungroup it. Well, I'm going to leave it grouped right now because it's easier to center that way. And go back into my text again. And I'm going to put that down to like 10 for the height. Okay. Start with a height of 10. A second, and just because I'm here already, let's go ahead and just set up another one that will be power percent. Right. That way I just got both of them done at the same time. Go back up here so I can move things. Obviously this is too big, but that's all right. We'll change that. Bring that down. You gotta be careful when you are resizing, you go too fast, it will actually flip the whole thing upside down and backwards on you. Okay, so now we'll rotate this 270. Drag it into position here. Leave a little bit of room because you got to put the numbers for your power and speed. Now we'll resize that one. See how I just flipped it over like that?
Motion detected at front door.
Okay, so now we got power and speed set up here. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and select, forget which one first. I think it was this one first and then the grids. And then we'll align this one on the vertical alignment. And then we're going to do the other one. I'm sorry, this one, then that one, and we'll align that on the horizontal, and that centers both those up. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we'll ungroup this now, and then what we're going to do is we'll set up our numbers that we have to do, which is I forgot what we had. Okay. So we had 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. So we'll set that up with our speeds. What we can do is let's put another text on here just so you can keep track of which one's which. We'll put another text on here.
You got your sheet.
Okay, so we'll set up another text box here. That is engrave test is what we're going to put. That way when you do the the cut test, you can have both of these put away so that later when you come back to the same material on the same laser, you can, in fact, let's do that too. We'll add another text, which in my case is my Monport Reno 65. That way you know what laser it is if you have multiple lasers. That's 65 watt laser. And we now have that. I'm going to reduce that size a little bit so that, oh, I hate when it does that. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Get out of it. Just flip it again. Okay. So that way I'll put that on my engrave as well. Now I know what laser it was, because I have two lasers, so I'll have a cut test for my X-Tool D1, and I'll have my engrave test and a cut test for both of my lasers. And I'll have them labeled so I know which test pattern is the one I used. Okay, so we have all those. I need to move this up. No, I don't need to move it up. That'll be down below. Never mind. Okay, so we'll start typing in our numbers. And our numbers are going to be it was 300. I'm trying to make it look just like the other one. 300. I'm just going to copy them. And this will be 200. No, not 200. 250. I always forget. Keep knocking this camera down. 200. Sorry, 250. 200. 150. And then 100. So then I have all my different speeds. So far, 300 over here, our 250, our 200, the 150, and then our 100. So those are all our speeds we're going to be running at. And then what I'll do is I'll highlight all these. Let's play the other way. And then I'm going to align them on the vertical center. And that way they're all nice and even. And what I can do is if I want to change each one of these to align centered on the squares, we'll go into our horizontal alignment. Select the object you want to move first, and then the other item will stay stationary. And that will just move the text around and not the box around. I won't hit it backwards. And that aligns all of our numbers up. I need to take a break because my wife wants me, so I will be back shortly. Okay, we're back. So what happened was I had a package delivery, which is some material for a project I'm doing. My stepdaughter, which is my wife's daughter, asked if I can make something for her, so I had to order the materials for it. Okay, anyway, so now we'll go on and we'll set up our power settings. and we were doing, excuse me while I do this, we went from 20 to 60. I'm going to change the orientation of the numbers. On the other one, the numbers come out, you know, like the speed does on a vertical axis. I'm not going to have it in that orientation because that doesn't make sense to me. I will do it in, you know, up, right side up orientation. Made sense in the speed because where you're going to put it is not going to show up right. So it made sense there. So let me do this here. We'll get our text again. We'll come down and we'll set up. It was 20, I believe, is our start level. Yep, 20. And 130, 40, 50, and 60. We're almost coming to the most tedious part of this whole thing, by the way. And the most tedious part is setting the actual powers for every square, the speed and power for every square. And so that's going to take a little. That's going to take a little bit of time. We will align that. And then what we'll do is we will set all of these to align horizontally. And now everything's evened out and square on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave all of these on our black layer, because we're actually just going to engrave those. And we'll look at our engrave setting here that we have from our previous test, and we'll say, I want to put an engrave at 100 and, oh, wrong one, sorry, wrong engrave test. I did multiple attempts at this because I'm trying to make this video correctly. I'm going to do it at 30% power at 150 millimeters per second. So we'll change this to 150, and we'll change that to 30% power, and that sets our engraving level. So now we'll get to go through the fun part. So we're going to move every one of these. So at the bottom of Lightburn, I'm not sure about X-Tool. Like I said, I haven't worked with X-Tool tool in a while because I use Lightburn for my X-Tool laser also. But anyway, we'll assign them each to their own layer. That's on 2, this one's on 3, 4, 5, 6. My mouse is being stuck. Let's see, that's 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15? No, I didn't. Okay, no, I'm on 15. As you can see, I got them all the way on 15 here. This will be 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 22, 23, 24, and last one of these, 25. And then we got our different different cut layers set up. So now it's just going through and changing them. So when we do 1 through 5, they're all going to be the same speed. They're all going to be at 300 millimeters per second. So we'll go up to 1, click on it. Over here we'll change that to 300. And we'll change our power to 20 on the first one, which is already set. Okay, go to the next one. We're going to have our speed at 300 and our power at 30. And it's just repeating this process over and over again. So 300 at 40. Making sure my video is recording correctly. And we got 300 at 50. And 300 at 60. And then just go down to the next line and do and repeat. So you get the idea. It's just repeat over and over and over again. And for brevity of the video, I am going to stop the video. Or stop recording, and I'm going to finish all this out, so you don't have to sit there and watch me go through every single step of doing this, because it's tedious, and you get the idea of what you got to do. And if you so yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so we finished our grid here, and now we can go on to, let me turn the music off, sorry. Alexa, stop. Okay, because that will cause a problem on YouTube playing copyrighted music. Anyway, so we have that all set up now. We have all of our powers and settings all set. You can see right here on grid 25, I have 160. So all of these are all set. Next thing we're going to do is go and change all of these except for our cut line. We don't want to change our cut line. We want to change all these to fill. Because we don't want line. We're doing an engrave test. Okay, so now we're all set for engraving. Now what we want to do is we want to create a rectangle to go around this whole thing that we're going to cut out. So I'm going to put that one on layer 26. And then we'll come in here and we'll make a rectangle around the whole thing. And we'll put that on layer 26. And then we'll set our speed and power to what I know cuts. 5 to 10. And we'll change that to 50. I know that will cut out my test pattern. And that's our completed test pattern for doing the engraved test, our 8th group. Drag that over here, it doesn't matter where I put it because I set my origin, so. Alright, so we've got that all set. I will put my material back in the laser. Set my origin. Position my camera back where it can see the laser. Make sure I got it. Let's see, we did that one. Turn my laser back on. I'll drag that down a little bit. We have a little more room here. And we're all set there. So in Lightburn, we'll go ahead and we have it all set. We'll go ahead and hit start. And that should take care of it. So the way it should go is just like the other one. It'll engrave first, and then it will do all the fills, and then at the end it will cut the line out, as long as everything's enabled. So output enables, shows it or makes it disappear. Output, it'll gray it out if you have the output turned off but not the show. And yeah, that should do it. I am going to show you what happens when you turn the air off as well. So let me minimize my Lightburn, and let's see. Add that in. I'm adjusting my studio setup here a little bit. Okay, so we're all set here now. It's trimming off part of the video here. I'm just trying to. Okay, so we're pretty much all set here. We're ready to cut. We're going to Lightburn and we'll tell it to start. Let me hide this. So that finished our test. We'll take a look at it here. Just down again because it kept getting knocked off when I was doing this. Turn off this camera, and we got that camera. Okay, so that's where we are. I don't have my studio lights out here, they're upstairs in my other room, so that's why the lighting's kind of odd. But it's just a LED, it's a fluorescent fixture with LED tubes in it. We're going to pull out my test we just did. Well, there's the test we just finished doing. I think we got some pretty good examples here. And you can kind of see all the different engraves, which should look very similar to the other one that we did. That I didn't get that didn't cut out. Going to change the cut settings. But on here, these should be very, this is a larger size obviously, but it should be very close in the cut dimension size. Let's get this turned the same way. So now you can kind of see they look very similar as far as what they are. I haven't cleaned this one. So the other one I cleaned, remember I wiped it off with a cloth and a little bit of sandpaper on it. So the cuts look very similar. As you can see, very dark at the bottom here where it really burns a lot, and all the different layers all the way up. It looks like it's the same here at 100 and 20. So at 120 look the same. They look the same at the 160 or 300, sorry, 360 and 360. So they should be the same because it's the same power level settings that are set up in my laser. So that is the engraved portion of the video. And now you've got, if you cut out the other one, you have the cutouts now for your cutout for your engrave on your laser. And now you know what power level to cut and engrave at. I'll show you something that I made. So there's a company called Cuddle XYZ. So Cuddle XYZ makes the software online, so it will generate whatever you want to have. So those Christmas tree ornaments with the names that I posted on the laser layer, that was done in Cuddle XYZ. You just type in the name, it creates the tree for you, lines up all the names to the right size, and joins it all into one piece. Anyway, on Cuddle XYZ, they have a box generator. And so the box generator, I generated this box here, and then I just put my test patterns in here. These were my larger test patterns when I was trying to learn how to use the tri-layer, the 3-layer acrylic. And then I went to smaller ones as I got close to what the settings needed to be. Actually, I went to the next smaller one, and then I went to smaller ones. And then I finally figured out how to do the red, so that the red came out. This one I haven't cleaned yet. So that's it was all done. You know, you do your test patterns, you find out what speeds and settings you need so that you can do these things. Now, cutting is done exactly the same way as what we just did, other than it's not fill, it's lines. And you just change the power levels to levels that you think will cut. You know, you generate, so we'll do it. I'll just go in, what I'm going to do is I'll save the grid that I just did. let me turn this camera off or go back to Lightburn. So I have all these already set. I'm going to save this. Save as. And then I'm going to go to make a new one. Video SPV. Speed power. So that will save this. And now I can edit this and do whatever I want to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'll just go in and I will change all my text and stuff to be, you know, like, I'm going to change that to 5. And I'm going to change this one to 10. This one's going to be 15. You get the idea, it's going to be 20. Oh, you get rid of the 0. It'll be 25. So we're going to set our speed to 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. We're going to set our power to, we'll do it at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then we'll go through and we'll change all these grids to match all of that. So that's the idea. You'll do that and you'll do your test. So I will do this again offline like I did before to change all these values, and then we'll come back and we'll do it. And then I'll go into the other version, which is using actually Lightburn's generator to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video to do that, and I'll come back. Okay, so I got all of those changed now. So the only thing I do now is you go through and you change all these from fill back to line. Okay, so make sure. Everything's at the line now. So we're ready to now do a cut test. And we'll go in and we'll change this. I'm engrave test. To cut test. And now we're all set to go. Just going to set up the laser, set up the material on the laser again. Reposition my start point for my laser so it fits in this an empty space, or a space that's not cut yet or anything. Okay, so now we're ready to cut again. Hit start. And we'll go to the other camera. Oh, yeah, the other camera. And I'll move the camera so you can see. Not good enough. There. Now for cutting, I should have my laser set to a higher pressure, around 21 to 22 psi for cutting. That makes nice clean cuts without leaving all the scorch marks on the cut lines. Looks like I have a fill going. I missed one that's not a cut. I have it as a fill still. Okay, so that got us our cut. Switch to the other camera. And grab the piece we just cut out. I'm going to get my laser set up for the next one because we use the built-in light burn to do the next cut. Okay, so here was the cut test we just made, and you can see there's a whole lot that cut out on it. I'll put my box behind it so you kind of see. I can't really see it there either. Something a little bit brighter to see it with, so you can kind of see through it better. So here's something white, and now you can kind of see that the cut went through on a whole lot of them. So all you do now, you have some that didn't cut, you got a bunch that did cut. So now all you do is you choose one of these power and speed settings when you're going to cut basswood material. This is 1/8 inch or 3mm basswood, in case you're wondering. So that's the manual version of a cut test. And oops, broke my box. I never glued this, I just put it together. Didn't glue it, and so it came apart when I grabbed it the way I did. So I'll throw my cut test in my box. So now I got my engrave and my cut test for later. Alright, so we've got all that. Let's go back into Lightburn again. Let's save the file I just made. Save as. No, didn't save the same directory that I did. Poop. I called there it is. Video speed and power. I should have called it video speed and power cut. Let's engrave. And this one will be speed and power cut. And I got both those done. All right, so they're both saved now. I'm going to clear this all out. What you can do after you've done everything, you actually can group it all by grouping here, and it's still set to all those separate layers, but allows you to move it as one object now instead of having to move it as separate pieces, or having to highlight it and then drag it. And if you actually drag off, you move part of it but not all of it. So it's better to group your things once you've completed everything. Okay, so we got that all done. I'm going to remove it. We saved it, so it doesn't matter. And then we'll go into Lightburn's tool. Go to laser tools, material test. We're going to go into our material setting. We're going to change that to line, which it already is. So we're good there. We're going to set this to 5. Is that to 5? We're going to go from, I want to make it basically the same as what we just did, so I don't want to do it differently. We're going to go from a speed of 5 to a speed of 25. And we're going to go from a power of 10 to a power of 50. And that's the same setup I just had done before. Make sure we cut it out this time because we didn't last time. We're all set there. So now we got this all set to cut out and engrave. Everything's set up to go. I've already set my laser in the right position. All we gotta do is hit start. And we'll switch my camera over. I thought we'd switch my camera. Okay, I don't know why. Oh, it didn't start. Why didn't it start? Oh, it didn't start because I still have my lid open on the laser. should be set still with it loads the file over to the laser. Okay, so that should be the cutout. Should be ready to view that. Cut. Didn't take my setting. Oh. Yeah. Remember the cut, even though I told it to set my cut. Anyway. You should have okay, so this is our cut test that we did manually. This is the, and then this is the cut test we just did, and they're almost the same. This one came out a little differently, I don't know why. 2815 cutout. Didn't cut out when I did the manual version, but it cut out on the second version. So maybe the wood's a little warped, and maybe it was a little closer to the laser or something that caused it, made it cut. But anyway, they're pretty much the same. All set there. So that's basically how you do a speed and power test for the for your laser. I showed you both versions so that you could do it on any software that you have. I think that Xtool probably has this kind of settings already set up in it. That you can do the same kind of thing that like Lightburn has, where it has the default settings, and you just change those settings to the how many you want. You don't have to sit there and manually enter in every single square. Like I said, I'm not really familiar with it. I haven't really used Xtool. I've always used Lightburn. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give a like, share, subscribe, and we'll go from there. Thank you.